what the hell have you been doing this whole weekend? It's been absolutely insane. Why are you only joining us now? But I am so excited to get into this game. It's a rematch of what we had last year in winter once more. KC versus G2. What felt like our best team coming out of the regular season, now going up against the greatest team Europe has ever produced.
And we're thick and fast into the draft, so let's not waste any time as Yunara, Rumble, and Azir making their way onto the ban list. G2 do have first pick. They are on the blue side, similar to what we saw against Koi yesterday for KC. Surprisingly though, it's G2 to ban away the Rumble. Yesterday it felt like that it was a or a second pick, I should say, perma-ban. But this time around, it is going to be G2 removing that. So what is that first pick? Orianna is available. We know that Caps is a master of the champion, and it looks like that's going to be their priority.
He's been having a whale of a time on it over the last few months, over his career, of course. But recently, I think he's really risen in form on this champion. It gives you so much pressure in those team fights as well. And we've seen such a dragon focus from both these teams through playoffs.
I was going to say that we have seen kyeahoo happy to pilot things like the Galio into it, the Talia into it, and also Yike take the Jarvan into it. And that's exactly what they're going to go towards here. Immediately locking in that combo, which now makes things incredibly uncomfortable for Caps in that mid lane.
The question becomes, will we see the Nocturne? Will we get that combo coming through from SkewMond? Of course, he's played a bunch of different champs into the Jarvan matchup, but it's kind of what we'd expect here for game one.
Mundo also another option. We started to see this Orianna Mundo creep up, and SkewMond was the one who brought Mundo to that main stage, the international stage itself. Looks like may not be the Aatrox going over instead.
Aatrox obviously still a flex, can be played top, can be played in that jungle role. Bard taken away from Busio. Labrov has had some very good performances on it, some shaky performances as well from time to time, but I really like taking it out of the draft this early on in Fearless.
Crazy dive composition already orchestrated by KC here. Everything going to be sent in onto that back line, and at least there you do have the Bard to try and alleviate some of that pressure, ult yourself to keep your team away from whatever this dive is going to be. But I am curious now what KC want to try and round this out with in the bottom side of the map. We have seen things like the Kai'Sa, Jhin in these sort of situations just to try and fare a little bit better when it comes towards at least being able to contribute in those dives.
I mean, Kai'Sa Nautilus is a combo that I'm immediately thinking about, and I wonder if G2 will look to do the same thing. And it looks like that Nautilus ban is going to come through. So they have a similar read to what we're talking about right now. It seems that supports are usually what you focus rather than AD carries, because AD carry, the pool is just so deep that banning away the supports usually has a lot more impact. Thresh, Pike, also things you could be worried about. But remember, Ashe Seraphine is something we've seen KC bring out as a response to the Bard, because you get that extra range, you get that very impressive bot lane, you get a lot of pick potential. And you'll get a lot of damage as well.
And also, Busio's been happy to take the opposite side of the Nico Bard matchup. We kind of saw Bard come out as an answer to it, but Busio happy to just play the Nico and try and win out through that lane phase, which they did relatively successfully in the past. We'll have to see, though, is the Sion ban. I thought it'd be a Gnar, because, I mean, Broken Blade, last time we saw Broken Blade and Canna face up in that upper bracket, it was Broken Blade getting the better of Canna in some of these matchups. Now, they were more tank-orientated, but a Gnar here for Broken Blade could be huge.
Yeah, BB in those matches brought out the Rumble, brought out the Gwen, was kind of meeting Canna at that aggressive level. I like the Nico call for KC. Gives you a facilitator for the dive as well, and a little bit of disengage if you do need it. We'll see where KC decide to go. Most likely an AD carry here on their fourth pick. Leave that support for last. Yes, you know that there's a Bard, but having the completeness of the team composition does allow you a little bit more flexibility on support. At the moment, though, they are looking towards the Nami.
Looking like a Nami Corki, a tried and true bot lane we've seen multiple times this split. Gives you a lot of power in the 2 versus 2. The Corki also does have very good scaling. For long-time League fans, you may think the Corki is the type of champ that falls off. Well, that's not really true, especially when you pair it up alongside the Nami. The cheeky Draven hover comes through from Hans Summer. I mean, for anyone that's followed his career, you'll know that this is what he was originally known for. And when he brought it out on these big stages, he had strong performances, but we haven't seen it from him for a while, and looks like we're not going to see it today, as the Caitlyn giving them a lot of range. And the Shen, the Shen jungle? Guys, I read a Reddit thread about Shen jungle.
He's so good right now.
The Shen jungle clear. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. It's the flexibility of Shen plus Aatrox. I specifically remember reading, I wish I could credit the Reddit thread creator. I don't know who it was.
It was a tweet originally, Vedius, and I can't remember who that was either.
A streamer as well. I don't remember any of this. Production will hopefully find that for us. But I read a Reddit thread that talked about how Shen jungle is super fast clear, it's very cheap to build, he spikes really hard on 2 items, and is very effective in solo queue specifically. Now, right now it's hovering in the top lane. We'll see if the swap does come through. I'd love it if we do, but Broken Blade is known for these unique picks and unique answers into these top lane champions, and it seems that the Shen is going to come through as an answer to Casey's comp.
Yeah, in my head, it feels like an answer into, you know, the passive damage that the Ambessa has. If you use that Spirit's Refuge, so much of Ambessa's damage is linked to use an ability, then get the auto attack off. So Shen going to be able to move away from that, but also provide a ton of protection on that back line as well. So it looks like it's going to be going topside, and
I'm a little sad.
This is Shen,
I was really excited for the Shen jungle, but all right, yeah, we are going to get a Shen coming back. I imagine he's still going to follow a similar build path, though, going for that early Protoplasm belt, basically just a lot of value stats.
The harness.
Very early, the harness,
yeah.
yes. And we also have to comment, we didn't mention it, Lucian. Lucian in the LEC is currently on a 13-game lose streak.
That's not great.
It's not great.
If it's the unlucky number in a lose streak, how does that work, though? Does that mean it then flips and becomes good?
We're going to find out today.
We'll see if they can flip it over into a win streak here. Lucian Nami so often used by teams to get that extra damage. Lucian's passive works really well with the Tidecaller's blessing, and then you have the healing on top of that from the Nami. And G2 going to take on Casey here in Spain as we make our way onto Summoner's Rift. G2 in their 10th final in a row. Casey, the last one was back in winter last year, but they were the team that took down G2 then, a 3-0 sweep. Can they refine that form today?
And it was the game where Yike was able to stop what had been such a long winning streak for G2. They'd won 6 in a row, but it was Yike who was able to take down his former team, push himself to 7, the longest win streak of any player ever in the LEC. And now, 1 year later, he finds himself opposite his old squad once more.
And Caps can match him today. Caps, oh, he can't match him today. He has 6. And that was the most he ever got, but he's not on 6 in a row right now, so
he's done it twice as well.
He has done it twice. Rain there had a little moment. Labrov looking for the damage onto Caliste, and Busio electrocute rocking as well, alongside the Piltover Peacemaker.
So, Lucian Nami, very powerful bot lane, does get heavily outranged. And Hans Sommer and Labrov went into lane and said, oh, we're not going to start when the minions get here. We're going to start straight away. They go for the 2 versus 2 trades. They are bullying this Casey bot lane. Flash.
Counter flash from Caliste, had to get out of that Cosmic Binding.
This is rough for the KC bot lane right now.
It's also the fact that this bot lane of Lucian Nami comes online a lot more around that level 3 mark. In fact, we've even seen Lucian starting with the W in some of these early trades, at least over in the LPL, because it does give you some more of that passive damage. It's much easier to try and get some of that early matching of the DPS from some of these more ranged matchups. But already forcing that reset, it's a great start for G2's bottom lane.
And when lane swaps were a thing, Lucian Nami would go top to level 3 and then come down towards the bottom lane to try and match. Yahoo able to Justice Punch away from Caps in the mid lane on this Orianna, currently undefeated in 2026.
I mean, Caps is monstrous on this Orianna. He is super aggressive in the lane. He's always finding ways to trade with his opponent. And often when we see it, he gets a lot of jungle and support assistance to enable him to play this hyper-aggressive style.
And that's why I actually really like this Shen to pair alongside it. Because one of the big faults of Orianna is how vulnerable you are in a side lane. And especially against Yahoo and Yike and even Canna, there's a ton of ways to close that gap onto the Orianna if she's left vulnerable on a side. Shen nullifies all that. Yep. He just pops the ult on Caps if you ever have that over dive, and maybe G2 even have a window to turn that play around.
And I mean, we haven't had much of a chance to look at that top lane matchup. We had a commenter say that Shen is really good into Ambessa. I'm just going to blanket trust them because I have no knowledge of this matchup.
It's the internet, Betty. One person says it, we trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust in the chat. But early on, Broken Blade was able to get good push. I can easily see how a Shen can win out trades against an early Skirmisher, especially one with very long cooldowns. And Broken Blade's got the wave in a really nice spot right now. Canna has to invest the ward to be cautious of any early jungle intervention. But both junglers having completed their full clear, gotten both crabs, going back to base, and now spending that early gold.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you have, again, it's the protection for mid, but also for bot lane, and Hans and Labrov have already set themselves up nicely. So I think for G2, that's where I put my focus, is on that bottom side. And especially because yesterday, Caliste was questionable. He didn't have the best of times, and I think this is where my eyes are going to be watching to see how the KC bottom laner steps up, because this was such a hyped addition to the LEC. But on the main stage, he just wasn't quite able to perform.
I mean, in Game 5, I think he really did step up, though, right? In the bot lane 2 versus 2, they were absolutely performing spectacularly, because we asked that same question, right? In that Game 5, we needed to see that bot lane perform. Yep. And, like, I remember their 2v2 dive with the Caliste and the Renata, and, like, it was so beautifully well executed. But that's also why we talk so much about Busio and how he's such an important part of this KC roster. His ability to find roams and his impact on the map is something that I think so few supports in the league have been able to match. Labrov has had some strong performances, and we'll see if he can do it today. As he's taking a ton of damage.
Chunked out, needs to use the heal, but Caliste can chase him down, and Caliste gets first blood.
Caster not cursed right there. I mean, immediately KC make it happen. And one of the big points we had over this weekend was Busio on this Nami, constantly hitting double bubbles, and now Hansama might be in trouble.
Gonna get chased down, has to dodge away from the bubble, still has the barrier and the flash, and won't have to invest either of them. Caliste did barrier himself. Meanwhile, SkewMond is in the area, but just covering more than anything.
Hansama steadfast in the face of 2, doesn't burn any of his summoner spells, will pop the pot. But wow. KC's bottom lane, after what was a very rough start, they had already been forced to flash from Caliste. The barrier was burned early, the heal was burned early, but now finding a 2v2 kill just like that, I mean, all of the advantage that G2 had built disappears in an instant.
I think it was a good call to back away, though. Obviously, there was the barrier there, but also Shen had just ticked over to level 6 as well. So now the ability to punish on this bottom side becomes way more difficult, as Canna.
Twilight Assault doing a lot of their work there from Broken Blade. That Q can do a huge amount of damage in the early game. Meanwhile, we see Caliste getting caught a little bit here. Hansama looking for the damage as SkewMond comes in for the gank. Aqua Prism, magical journey forward. Caliste still no flash, tries to dash away. But the Darkin Blade finds its first victim.
SkewMond on the map to start things off for G2. This was one of the eyes that we had on the jungler, and SkewMond performing already.
That magical journey placement was excellent from Labrov, because it just so easily closed the gap between SkewMond and Caliste. He still didn't have his flash up, because remember earlier, Labrov traded his flash for the Lucian flash, and there was nowhere left for him to go. So G2 bait them into a bit of a skirmish. Labrov, he's already died in this lane, so why would Caliste feel afraid? Hansama chipping away at his HP, gets him very low. The bubble provides some space, but then SkewMond, I mean, he has more than enough damage, and thanks to that magical journey, closes the gap and secures himself a kill.
We did see Yike push towards the blue buff side of G2 with the time that he had. I think he stole away the blue, and now he's going back to his red. SkewMond a little bit later there. Just ticked over to level 6, but basically on as even between the two teams 7 minutes into this game, as it's a slight lead in mid, bot, and support. Well, a slight lead in top for G2.
Broken Blade getting some good trades here. Canna constantly taking these trades where you can use the Q to pull the, well, scalpel, but essentially the passive through Canna, which is getting the slows, enabling Broken Blade to go all 3 auto attacks of that Twilight Assault off. Caliste, though, still in levels of pressure.
Aqua Prism is going to land on the Hansama, and that will stop the play. Hansama already level 6. Threat of an ace in the hole, always a deadly thing for the KC bot lane, so they back away before they've lost too much health.
Little attention onto the Dragons thus far, which I expected to see a little bit more, especially because Hansama has at least got decent push onto the bottom lane. Obviously, Labrov losing his life early didn't help, but I expect them to try and put some pressure over towards this objective now in the coming moments.
You know, given that I'm 33, I'm not hip and up to date with young trends.
Okay.
But my Instagram reels do recommend me a lot of Caitlyn tech. And one of the things you can do, and the thing is, I'm going to mess this up, but there's ways in which you can...
This is young memes?
Yeah, this is...
I thought we were going into aura farming and frame maxing.
I don't know any of that, I'm afraid. I'm talking about what the youth are seeing, which is Caitlyn tech. Oh, Labrov in a bit of danger. But the way I've been told, right, the way you have to treat traps is it's a CC in the future. So you're basically not going to use it immediately. You've got to be like an anticipation or trying to trap someone in a certain direction. Because the way I've always seen Caitlyn traps is kind of zone control tools.
Sure.
But when you're fighting someone, often the better play is to actually just constantly be putting traps behind them in the midst of the fight, in between weaving your auto attacks to then make it more awkward for them to fight. As the ulti gets dropped.
Perfect execution in here. Broken Blade flashing away from the hero's entrance from kyeahoo. He does still have the taunt, tries to trade back onto Canna, goes in with the taunt, but Canna flashes wisely away from it, and the Winds of War will find their first victim of the game. kyeahoo on the board.
It didn't look like he had anywhere to go, so Broken Blade tries to make the play, gets the flash from Canna, but gives his life. G2 tried to respond with the Dragon. Yike in the area, though.
Yike goes in with Cataclysm, locks himself in. Cat's here as well, could look for the shockwave, a tidal wave to disengage. kyeahoo has joined the fight, Tempered Fate flashed by Yike. The Drake was secured by SkewMond.
A valiant attempt from Yike. SkewMond, though, does secure the smite, learning from the last time that they went up against each other. But the idea is clean. Ulti in, guarantee you get into the fight, then use the EQ to get out. G2 invested a lot, though, to try and punish him, forcing him ultimately to flash away. So he ends up losing his flash, a trade of flashes in the top side of the map. KC holding on to a small gold lead for now. And it's right now largely sitting on kyeahoo, thanks to the kill he was able to find in top lane.
I like the idea from KC, though. Try and punish the Shen pick in that top side by focusing Shen, because obviously he can use that ultimate to get anywhere else. So keeping that play, getting Khan into position where he can be a bit more comfortable. And especially if Shen starts to lose out effectively on the side lane, then he becomes way less threatening, because anytime he disappears, well, then you just take the tower instead.
I also just love seeing kyeahoo being proactive on the map. I think he has been super impressive in playoffs, and I think that yesterday his Rise performance was really amazing, the way that he was impacting the map a lot. We saw the Galio come out as well, and I would say a lot of Galio players don't use that ult to try and force ganks early on, and already having impact on the map is something that you love to see, especially against a mid laner like Caps, who historically has been known for his ability to roam and impact the map.
I will say, we didn't title that lower third. That was done all by our behind-the-scenes team.
I'm not going to lie, I would have done that.
Yeah, you would?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, yeah. I even heard some of the crowd doing it.
That's true. It's true. The KC fans out in force as the Labrov and Hansama try and push Caliste back in this bottom side of the map. Caliste has already completed his Essence Reaver, whereas Hansama went for the Zerka Greaves first and a Serrated Dirk, looking for a little bit more attack speed for the extra autos in lane.
So Yike has just reset, bought his Sundered Sky, and is now kind of moving down towards this bottom side of the map. But the way he's pathing, I think they're looking for a play as this wave starts to crash in onto Labrov. Does have a ward and Tri-Brush to spot him out.
Canna going in with the Eclipse here onto Broken Blade, who only has a Tiamat and a Giant's Belt. BB needs to get out of here, but no flash on him. Canna has the public execution for the chase, doesn't need it. Canna just autos him to death.
I mean, so far the counter pick is not going the way that G2 want. Canna with a healthy advantage now on the top side as the mid laners fight.
And Caps is able to walk away. Carlin coming out of Caliste, tied the Tsunami as well from the Nami.
SkewMond is coming in behind, though. He's
There's
the whole way
there's the
around.
flank, double Tempered Fate. SkewMond in with a World Ender, double flash away from KC. Flag and drag, ace in the hole, the TP as well. A magical journey out, SkewMond needs to get there. The trap on Canna stops him from going any further, but public execution just misses by a sliver. G2 able to extract themselves.
Credit to Hansama. His Caitlyn mechanics in that whole fight were spectacular, but it was not enough. KC had the numbers, had the damage, and they were able to force the bot lane of G2 back. G2 came into this first game with overall an aggressive draft. They wanted to get themselves a strong bot side 2 versus 2. They wanted a winning mid, and they had the counter pick in top lane. But the early game is going the way of KC, and that has been the story of this team so far this weekend.
And I think the fact that you get to now put so much pressure on the bottom side, take these early turret plates, it's exactly where you want your Lucian to be. And you have a strong jungler that can facilitate this Lucian on potential mid plays. So for G2, it was kind of cooking, but at the moment, it may be overboiling.
Next Drake up in a minute 20. G2 did secure the first. KC will be looking to fight around it. An item and a half on Caliste, yeah, who already completed his first. On the other side, we are seeing first items out of most players. Labrov a little bit short. There's an Imperial mandate already for Busio. And Hansama, because he went for those early boots, he's a little bit shy as well. Does have himself an elixir of skill, so can get that extra skill point. Doesn't matter too much right now, I guess, but it's still a nice little bonus. Caps looking for kyeahoo and Yike. We're beginning to walk in.
Until that dragon. I think that's why KC's starting to roam down towards this bottom side. We're hoping they can maybe make a pick on Labrov, who doesn't have his flash available. But everyone nicely backing away on G2, aware of that timing.
Broken Blade getting traded on again. Yeah, it's not the best at the moment.
The more I see these trades, the more I'm starting to think like, okay, help me understand how the counter pick works, because of course the Spirit's Refuge mitigates those auto attacks, right? Of course, that makes a ton of sense, but Ambessa, a lot of her damage doesn't come through from her auto attacks. So when she gets the Eclipse, I really start to feel that she starts winning out on these trades. We're yet to see Broken Blade's first ulti of the game. He doesn't have a huge amount of armor early on as kyeahoo. Ooh, flash
forward by Caps to block the Justice Punch. SkewMond on the chase as well. The chains won't get the pullback on the kyeahoo, who does flash himself. Shockwave still catches him though. And G2 get the kill on the enemy mid just before the dragon. Yike looks for the flag and drag, can't land it. Then stand united. Caps gonna have a partner in crime in the middle of the cataclysm. Canna diving forward immediately, taunted. A good temper fate on Busio. Stopped him getting anywhere near the action. As G2 clean up in mid.
I mean, G2, when the chips are down, when you need to make a play, the place you have to look is in the middle lane. Caps flashes in front of kyeahoo to stop him from getting away. On Orianna, he acts as a body blocker to prevent kyeahoo from escaping. What a flash to set up the play for Caps.
And on TikTok, the kids are talking about putting the shockwave in the future to catch the Galio when he flashes. So well played by Caps, but even on the follow-up here, Busio denied thanks to Labrov's Bard. Yike tries to set up, but this is what we were talking about with that Shen, protecting the Orianna when she's most vulnerable. Canna can do nothing, and KC gives so much gold to G2.
And we didn't talk about it, but Labrov connecting that ulti onto Busio as well, buying time for the bot lane to rotate up and then get that pick onto him as well. A quick gold swing just like that. G2 find themselves with a small gold lead for now, but most importantly, the second Drake of the game.
Yeah, we can have a Mountain Soul. G2 can look to get towards that in about 4 minutes time. There's a Rift held up towards that top side. A little bit of vision for KC towards the blue buff of G2, allowing them to spot SkewMond on his path. SkewMond continuing to pop off here in 2026, in playoffs specifically. He is having an absolute whale of a time.
He's about to match this topside play. Yike trying to hide in the bush, doesn't realize he's on vision. SkewMond is swept. They're trying to make a play towards Caps, but once more, SkewMond's reading it.
And Labrov's on his way as well, has the Tempered Fate. Yike flag and drag out. SkewMond with the world end of public execution in, but Canna is met by two immediately and has to dash away. A Tempered Fate will lock Canna up. The minion wave now here to tank for a second. Canna tries to flash away, but the slows from Labrov. The Meeps doing their work, the charm and the chimes. In the end, Canna will escape with a TP coming out of kyeahoo.
Caps' shockwave found nothing, which actually let Canna get away. Busio thinks he can make the play happen though.
Tidal wave splits the upright and Labrov has a magical journey. He's caught in the middle of it, but it still can take it a second time. No chase coming from the rest of KC.
Busio played that really well, but there was just no follow-up from KC. Felt like the kyeahoo wasn't really ready to pounce on that play, but at the end of the day, they keep Canna alive. They're able to get a couple tower plays, but it is G2 that continue to extend the gold lead.
About 1,000 ahead right now. SkewMond 1.3 ahead himself. Busio and Caliste do have a small lead on that bot side. Caliste now finishing up the rapid fire cannon. Has a cloth armor as well in his inventory. Hasn't upgraded his boots, just sitting on the typical clothy ones. I can't remember what they're called. What it is, cloth boots?
Brown bags?
Brown bags of bootingdom. The level ones, unupgraded. So likely going towards the plated steel caps. I know that name.
I think just class boots.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know the slightly magical ones, slightly magical footwear, you know? But perhaps not the most important thing for us to dive deep on right now.
You actually blanked my mind. I couldn't actually think of the name. I was sitting there being like, wait, now I've completely forgotten the name of boots.
I can't remember. I just called them boots.
Yeah,
sitting on the
they
tier
are
one
just
boots.
boots in my head, I'm afraid, Medic. Herald is alive, and it's G2 that have full control over the top side. Broken Blade playing on that weak side of the map, ready to ult in should a fight take place, but with Yike on the bottom side, I don't really expect much from KC.
I really love the way G2 have been playing with their vision, though. We had that like ward in the third brush on top lane, which spotted out Yike trying to make a play onto Orianna. They have wards now in that bottom side to spot out again where Yike is going to make plays. It feels like G2 are kind of preemptively going through what's the rundown, what is KC capable of doing if we are going for this play, and making sure they already have wards in there to make sure it doesn't happen.
Ooh, Yike almost stole away that red buff with the flag. Won't be able to get it though. Tower gonna drop on the bot side.
Yeah, Canna's still winning out in the 1v1, but Broken Blades has shown the merit of this pick when it comes to team fights, the ability to peel his carries as and when required. But that tower going down does mean that KC have equalized the goal pretty much. 400 the difference, it's a longsword, doesn't really matter. What you're looking at now is where are the differences between individual lanes. Caliste and Busio have about a 500 lead themselves, whereas SkewMond is about 1,000 ahead and Caps about 300.
I think it's also the way that you want to play these matchups makes it a little bit easier for G2. Like whenever I see Lucian and Nami, I'm like, okay, you want to be trying to play around potential moments on this mid lane, especially with Yike, where you look for the flag and drag, Cataclysm, culling over the top, murder whoever is on mid lane. That's really difficult against the Caitlyn because her wave clear is good, she plays from such a long range, and you also have Labrov who's just able to help. But if you put all that focus on mid, well then Orianna gets to do her thing. But even if you focus on Orianna in that side lane, you now have Broken Blade to cover. It feels like you kind of got this followed through of whatever game plan KC try to enact, it doesn't quite work out for them. So I think that's why we've seen KC all in on trying to kill Broken Blade on side lane, because he's the only real target they have. And at the moment, still has a Titanic Hydra, not the tankiest. They can continue to make plays, but with Dragon now, how do KC try to fight this?
I mean, if I'm KC, I'm honestly not too worried about the game state. SkewMond is the biggest threat. Checking if they have anti-healing. Oh, and that's exactly what I wanted to get to. Caliste, with his 2 completed items, with Busio at his back, is able to do a lot of damage. And remember, that healing reduction coming through from Busio. So G2 are just saying, you know what, we'll prioritize pushing through mid-wave. I think they're going to abandon the Dragon in order to gain control over this tower, and they can push this onto the next one as well.
They're going to charge it in. kyeahoo looking for a flank of his own, but the charge will still land, and a couple more plates over to G2. The Drake secured for KC, but the gold lead extends by about 1,000. Magical Journey out for Labrov. Tidal Wave coming out from Busio. Hans Summer able to get himself across the wall, and G2 disengage wisely.
KC were still waiting on Canna to try and come across. So G2 able to walk away despite the ult investment coming through from KC. And even Broken Blade getting to push in on the bottom side. So I think for G2, given a Dragon across, you'll take all that extra gold.
You also have top wave pushing it. So Caps can go up here. You have to invest a TP if you want to defend the tower for KC. kyeahoo uses his TP. Caps still holds on to his, looking for that next play.
I think KC's pretty... Well, I think overall they're pretty happy with how that sequence went. Yes, they did take a lot of damage on that mid-tier 2, but they stopped the Dragon stacking, and now if G2 get that other Dragon, if they need to buy more time or they feel they're not strong enough, they at least have the time that they can play with. Of course, we're at the point in the game where now a single team fight loss could result in a Baron. Early on, Baron is a lot squishier than compared to what we used to see in last year. And while that first Baron doesn't normally win you the game, it puts you in that game-winning position, ready for that next Dragon. And this is also where Caitlyn shines. Her ability to zone control, the fact that she can make it so much harder for the enemy to approach these neutral objectives, especially if you're on that objective first, is something that G2 is going to look to leverage.
KC have abandoned top lane. They moved kyeahoo down to this bottom lane to try and make a play. May instead just all in on mid, so you can see how safe G2 are trying to play for the next couple of moments until they spot where kyeahoo is on the map.
Yeah, just have to be a little bit more defensive. There's always the threat of the hero's entrance, the TP coming in from Canna, the ability to delete someone before reinforcements can arrive, even through the Stand United shield. But, G2 just back away in case his play doesn't really materialize into anything. Caps now extending his lead to about 1,000. The laning phase, well played by kyeahoo, but since then Caps has been left in the side lane effectively by G2 to pick up that extra gold from CS and from the towers. And now G2 looking to step into the KC jungle. They're not going to find much there. Yike just sitting on the wolves right now. Caliste is there as well. SkewMond might look. Caliste gonna face check again! Caliste is gonna face check again! The Temper Fate coming out the X and hole will be blocked by Yike, and Caliste is able to get out. Costs him his barrier, but this time he survives.
He was not expecting to see an Aatrox in that small brush. He thought that with the jungler right next to him, he would be safe. And admittedly, he was. Yike able to escort him to safety, but he did burn the barrier. SkewMond did lose a decent chunk of his HP as well. And Caliste continues to get stronger as kyeahoo now isolated in top lane.
Yeah, SkewMond's already up towards the top side. Looking for the Infernal Chains, will land them onto kyeahoo. There's the pullback, taunt out from kyeahoo though. Should be able to survive this. More chip damage than anything from G2. KC are pushing through mid, but Caliste needs to go back to base.
Yeah, who's very tanky on the side lane, which means it's going to take a while to get through him, and he can clear these waves very effectively.
So Lucian TP coming behind as Broken Blade looks for the taunt. Caps is here. Command protects Shockwave, and Canna, a Shockwave through his brain as he didn't expect to be ganked by Caps. Does have the flash, but does he have a way to get out of this situation? A little bit of outgo gaming, perhaps. Take a small break, BB and Caps that will collapse. And Canna, even with the shields, shouldn't be able to get away. Canna dies, Caps gets the kill. And there's the TP advantage we were talking about earlier.
The G2 have just been playing the map state incredibly well. KC do get that tower on top side in response, but again, as you highlighted, Medic, it's just how quickly they've been roaming around, understanding where KC can make plays, and just constantly trading across the map.
Yike was able to steal away the blue as well. He'll be happy with that. Broken Blade will get a tower in response. Gold lead stays about that 2 to 2.5k mark. Across the whole team, it's an item. But you have to look at mid-jungle for G2. That's where the large leads are. Caps built the Blighting Jewel alongside his Torch and his Zhonya's. And looks like it's going to be a Crypt Bloom for him in terms of that penetration item.
Yeah, 45 seconds until the Dragon, though. And I'm looking at Hansama, should be able to reset after this wave, pick up his Rapid Fire Cannon, match that third item that's already been picked up by Caliste. And for Caps, I mean, he's snowballed all hell. 3 kills, or three items, I should say, already for him, alongside those 3 kills.
Yeah.
I think for KC, again, trying to establish yourselves like this early in River, fish for a pick or fish for some sort of all-in is what you need to do as G2 go for those resets.
Well, let's see how things pan out. Right now, KC have pretty good setup. Caliste is melting through these mid waves as the recall comes through. There's that extra item you were talking about. Shen also very deep push in the top lane, having to be matched by kyeahoo, who now has his teleport available. He'd love to get that level 16.
Oh! Caps chunked out massively. The culling does connect, and Caps is low HP, has to flash away from public execution. Yike trying to get on towards the backline. Tidal wave forces Caps up towards the top side. Yike goes in with a Cataclysm, a 10 for fate. Will stop time for a second hero's entrance as well. A double taunt. Is it enough to take down Skew? It doesn't seem to be. SkewMond survived through it with the help of a stand united from his brother BB, who's called out with the Aqua Prism, and Busio eventually finds a kill for KC.
Caliste sets up that play for KC. This is what you need to be doing on a Lucian. Prior to the fight even starting, find that chunk onto any member really, but he finds it onto Orianna, onto Caps. Look at this, dashes in, has the full support of Busio, takes him down to about 30% HP, and this is the go signal for KC.
And then the ult from Busio ends up zoning Caps away, which means they can hyper-focus on SkewMond. And the damage doesn't come through initially thanks to a nice ult from Labrov onto Caliste, but as soon as that's gone, it's G2 trying desperately to hold on to any semblance of control.
Look at this
Broken Blade went deep.
Yeah, Broken Blade, it seems like he was trying to set up for a play for Caps, but Caps just couldn't quite get in range for a good Shockwave. So that Shockwave really doesn't do that much damage. KC navigate the fight and they get themselves another Dragon. It is G2 that still hold on to the gold lead, but we're seeing the strength of Lucian. Perhaps this could be the day that that lose streak finally ends, but there's still a lot of work that KC needs to do in order to find this game 1 win.
Not to be a support apologist, but we're seeing the strength of Busio. His Nami is sublime. The tidal wave initially to lock Caps out of the bottom side of the fight. Great ebb and flows, the Aqua Prism at the end just clipping the heels of Broken Blade to finalize that kill. This guy is on another level right now. Labrov did a good job as well with the Tempered Fate, catching onto Caliste, stopping the initial burst of damage, but this is what can happen. Tempered Fate goes wide, the culling lands, and now Labrov is forced away. Hansama trying to escape, Yike will fall for it. kyeahoo here with the TP in from BB, no stand united for him. The taunt's gonna land on 2, SkewMond dead, double tidal wave as well for the knockup, and SkewMond needs to get out. World Ender pop, Canna flashes away from the Infernal Chains. And in the end, a 1-for-1 is all she wrote.
KC needed to try and take that fight because SkewMond stayed standing, their jungler went down. It might have been enough for G2 thought they could have taken a fight at that Baron. But with KC putting enough hurt onto them, they will back away.
I think KC's just a bit too trigger happy. Like, Caliste had already done the work that they needed to do. After finding a trade like that, G2's forced to retreat. You have numbers advantage. You can use that time to get the vision that you want, to get the control or the space or whatever it is that you want to do. But instead, because they committed to the fight, Yike then went way too deep, and it ends up being a trade 1-for-1 where KC don't really get much off the back of it. The way in which Caliste is playing right now is exactly what you need to be doing on Lucian, but Yike had already lost so much HP off the back of a small skirmish with SkewMond that he ends up throwing away his life, and it ends up being a 1-for-1.
Hun still holding on to the flash and the barrier from that play. Caliste still has his flash, but only he and Busio have them on the side of KC, whereas you look at G2, they have SkewMond alongside, but not on Labrov, so 2 flashes apiece for these two teams. Baron an objective for them both, but feels like neither team really wants to pull the trigger on that right now. Bit of vision control for G2 towards the top side. KC have deigned that it is Broken Blade who will be matched by kyeahoo, it seems, as Canna is up towards that top side. Doesn't have TP right now, which makes sense, as kyeahoo's is about to come off CD. He's passed up through mid. There's a stand united for BB, as the culling doesn't connect with the same velocity it has in the previous 2 times.
I think KC are just trying to get that out of Broken Blade, though. That stand united. If they can try and force that before some of these objectives,
second,
it's much
by the way, on the Shen. I was not expecting that.
Okay, clearly there's more than I need to learn about Shen.
The E is magic damage. I don't think the Q's health scaling.
This is forbidden tech.
Yeah.
This is truly forbidden tech.
Oh, of course, because the ult scales off of AP.
Yes.
So the more shielding, yeah.
There's logic behind it. I do not think us in the middle of casting a finals are the people that should extrapolate all of that logic.
Yeah, we do have 2 top laners on the analyst desk that will probably explain it for us.
One of them could run over here and explain it for us.
But for now,
But they'd have to have headsets on.
for now, we have a Dusk and Dawn Shen. We'll see how impactful that ends up being. Dragon in 1 minute and 17 seconds. For now, G2 hold the gold lead. A lot of that is sitting onto SkewMond. He's terrifying. And that's great. The undefeated Orianna versus the unwinnable Lucian. That's a pretty funny comparison. Caliste, he's level 15, he's looking very strong. That Infinity Edge, very close to being completed. The question for me is, can he finish it ahead of this Dragon fight? He is fishing for as much farm as he can get his hands on, but there's nothing for him to take. There's not even any jungle camps for him to grab. Oh, a ward, more gold.
Yeah, it's more gold. That is true, Vedi.
But there we are. There's the LDR now finished for Hansama, so he's got his 4th item ahead of this fight.
You have to be so careful as KC trying to take this, though, because Canna doesn't have the TP. He's now walking down from that top lane. Broken Blade can join in at any time with that stand united, and level 16 stand united as well gives so much. The bundle pipe's now completed on towards Broken Blade as well. Very supportive build here.
A Scot at New Year's. He's bagpiping from sunrise to sunset. And there's a Titanic Hydra in there somehow as well. Oh! As we see the Temper Fate connecting, Yike has the GA, will flash away. Broken Blade trying to get on towards that backline. Taunt into taunt as Broken Blade pulls kyeahoo away from the rest of the team. Caps trying to keep Canna at bay himself as well.
That is a nice headshot that comes through from Hansama. G2 are winning the war of attrition. They are chipping away at KC's HP. The healing for Busio is good, but G2 have position on the objective. So now these Caitlyn traps are doing some serious work. KC, I think they're going to have to abandon this, but they're TPing in.
Yeah, who's TPing towards the bottom side. Canna looking for that public execution. Yike looking to get in with the cataclysm. Goes in. Public execution on the backline, but it's only on the Labrov. Hero's entrance as well to separate the team. Caps goes on a rampage as Busio and Caliste caught. SkewMond dashing across the wall here to chase out the Nami. Caps with a stopwatch in the pit as the rest of G2 try to come to his aid but can't get there quickly enough. It doesn't matter. They'll sacrifice Caps for the rest of KC. Yike, that guardian angel is more like a devil on your shoulder as G2 wipe away Karmine Corp.
SkewMond and Caps find the combo onto the back line. The flash from SkewMond set up for the shockwave, and it's reminiscent of what we saw at the World Championship last year. Beautiful play from the duo, beautiful team fight from G2, and while they lose the Dragon, they'll secure the first Baron of this final.
3 dragons to KC, as you say, that Baron, and this fight starts off where it looks decent, but Hansama doesn't get hit by the public execution. Caliste goes incredibly low. SkewMond flashes forward with the Orianna ult onto the back line of KC, and at this stage, KC just don't have enough damage in the tank. They get 1 but they die where they just stole the dragon.
I mean, once you take the Lucian out of the fight, so much of the damage simply disappears. Of course, Canna is there to help him out, but that shockwave combo from Caps and SkewMond, they make the play happen, and now look at the gold difference. Before it was only 2K, 6.4 the gold lead now. G2 looking monstrous here in this first game as they look to try and close things out.
And still 3 tier 2s remaining for them to crack through. Wouldn't be surprised if when we end this Baron power play, unless KC find a miracle fight, we're looking at 9K. And quite easily, as G2 will begin to push through the top side. Broken Blade catching mid. Good push from Caliste and Busio down towards bot though. KC trying to get something out of this.
That tower's already taken low, so they should be able to trade tower for tower. They just have to try and get back for their next objective.
Caps is going to respond. Caps is there. Yike's on the bottom side of the map as well. Currently pathing down towards it. Caps trying to clear the wave in time. The shockwave to pull back Caliste. The Cullen coming out. Caps may have sacrificed himself for this again. Has the Zhonya's, has the Stand United, has the shielding. And the tower remains. Inhibitor towards the top side is G2. Look for the damper fate, but can't quite land it. Caps now going to TP into the fight. It's only Canna here to defend. Yahoo there to try and bolster them up. But G2 may have pulled the rope, but don't. Caps gets a kill onto Yike. It was BB who TP'd and KC who fell. Caliste here, but all he can do is stand and watch. Be taunted by BB. The top father is here to make sons of KC. Game 1 goes to G2.